dodge this.
One world currency.
The New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another live edition of DTRH. It is June 11th, 2015. Live again here in the DTRH studios. I took last week off to actually work on the physical studio and my house itself. And then I got a message over the weekend because I don't know if anybody noticed, but Monday was the anniversary of the attack on the USS Liberty. So I decided to dedicate my show Tuesday to my good friend Richard Larry Weaver. And he had messaged me during the, him and a couple other Liberty veterans and a couple other activists had messaged me and asked if I was going to have anybody on this year. And I wasn't going to be live during the actual anniversary date this year, so I decided to dedicate the show by re-airing the broadcast I did last year with Richard. And it's a very powerful interview. The full, I don't think, if I remember correctly, I don't know if I was able to air the whole thing that night. If I wasn't, because I can't remember, you can hear the full archive over on PopeyeRadio.com. Powerful stuff. Powerful stuff. So I'm glad that I was able to do that for those guys. And Richard messaged me yesterday, and he was very appreciative of it and thankful that I did that for him. And as a fellow sailor and somebody who I consider one of my shipmates, I would do anything for the Liberty crew. So Richard's a good friend of mine. And I couldn't think of any way better to honor those guys than playing that interview and letting people hear that again, because it's extremely emotional and powerful. And it's one story you don't hear about. My father was a Navy vet, never heard about the Liberty. I know a ton of other vets that have never heard the story, and when they do, it infuriates them. If you haven't heard the interview, go listen to it. Go over at PopeyeRadio.com and just look up the story of USS Liberty survivor Richard Larry Weaver. Or just type in USS Liberty into Federal Jack in the search bar, and all the interviews I've ever done with the Liberty survivors will come up. And you can listen to them. Anyway, I want to get into tonight's broadcast. TPP, issues with police brutality and other stuff. But first, joining me for 2 hours to go over all of this and to rip into all of this is my good friend, my brother from another mother, and a Navy veteran himself, Mr. Joe Joseph. Joe, welcome back, brother.
Howdy ho, neighbor.
So, what do you think about the Liberty before we get into the TPP?
What can you say? I mean, as if that wasn't bad enough, you know. You have the Gulf of Tonkin incident. That never happened. You know, one of those things. People don't know the real history, and instead you have revisionist history that's taught, or they just erase it from history. And they're trying hard to do that with the Liberty. I mean, it's an outrage what happened. And I didn't know when I was in. I had no idea. You know, and vaguely, very vaguely did I know. But I mean, to the extent of like your interview, I mean, that had my, I was almost in tears.
I remember when I first interviewed him, the first time I aired that, you had promoted it, and you got emails from guys that you knew. I know you got emails from the spec ops community, a few people you knew, and I did as well, that heard that broadcast, and these guys were in tears.
Yeah.
I mean, tears.
Oh, no doubt, man. It was powerful. Very powerful.
Larry's a good guy, so when I was already I was like, oh, you know, I got to do something for the Liberty anniversary, and I knew I didn't have enough time, and I wasn't prepared enough to do because it kind of, you know, I was sidetracked at other things, and I realized what it was a couple of days before, and I wanted to get Larry on because his is the most powerful interview, and he was just not in the shape to do it. So he said to me, can you put on the interview we already did? And I said, yeah, actually, it's one of the best interviews I've ever done. One of the most powerful. Sure, no worries. And I'm glad I did. I'm really glad I did. I know a lot of new people here, the newer listeners here at Truth Frequency, that might never have actually heard a detailed interview like that. They got a chance to hear it, so I'm glad.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. Well, we take care of one another, Joe. You know how that's wrong.
It's true.
So anyway, moving on. The TPP.
Yeah, because free trade has always worked for us in the past, right? Boy, I mean, look at the quality of life that we have basically since NAFTA. Look at how that's gone.
What did Ross Perot call NAFTA and GATT? What did he say? Remember, what was the famous line? You'll hear a big sucking sound.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, because the money's going to flow out of this country into other countries. And he's right. That's exactly what happened. Now, you know, everybody poo-poos globalism. And the problem is you can't have it both ways. You either got to embrace globalism, period, and do away with sovereignty, or don't do it at all. Because trying to mix the two has done nothing but concentrate the wealth at the top 0.0001%. You know, so that's really where that's where I've got to rub with these TPPs and everything else. It's just another major power grab and another way to make the United States third world, basically.
Did you get a chance to actually see the level of a power grab that it is?
Oh, dude, it's like they don't. Basically, what this is, in a nutshell, is it basically gives all the power to the monopolies.
Yep.
That's it. I mean, they're basically bringing about the robber baron 2.0.
Well, because our corporations are people too now, Joe.
Of course they are, but God forbid you take away their First Amendment right, damn it. You know, through...
that's why they can donate endless sums of money, too.
Yeah, to like people like Paul Ryan.
Yep. Oh, yeah, did you hear what he said today?
Oh, yeah. Dude, don't worry, guys. It'll get unclassified as soon as we pass it, and everybody could read it. Well, what? Are you kidding?
And there are people that'll be like, well, that makes total sense because they
just got to pass it to read what's in it.
Right? Isn't that what Pelosi said about Obamacare?
Yeah, but see that may have been like divine intervention there, kind of like let's make him like God went and like flicked his head, bing, And he said that stupid thing. So hopefully, that energizes people enough to speak out more against it. Maybe it energizes somebody on the inside to leak the damn thing. I don't know. Isn't there like $100,000 reward?
WikiLeaks.
Yeah.
They put out a reward for there's missing pieces of it. This whole thing is being done in secret. If you go on YouTube, you can do this right now, or while you're listening to the YouTube archive of this, open up another tab and go to youtube.com, and in the search bar, just type in TPP exposed or TTP or TPP agreement exposed. Freaking acronyms. If you type that in, it'll come up. You'll see all these videos. You'll see one after another explaining, and on some of the stuff from like How Stuff Works, which is like a mainstream video.
Yeah, it's a mainstream channel.
Yeah. How Stuff Works put out a video called 5 Reasons Why the TPP is Scary. And he says flat out in the video, guy's like, yeah, and it's secretive. He's like for real. Like, even our members of Congress don't know what's really in this. And they don't. It's a bunch of corporate attorney scumbags doing this.
Well, they're not voting for it. They're voting for fast track authority. See, what they're trying to do
is give up their authority so it can just
it's the War Powers Act 2.0 is basically what it is, only on the trade side now, or treaty side, I should say. So what they're doing is they're delegating their treaty authority to the president. I mean, they still have to ratify it, but even in that language of this agreement, apparently, this law, if it gets passed, is that instead of 67 votes needed for a supermajority to ratify the treaty, they'll only need a simple majority. And by the way, they can't change it. And it's a straight up and down vote. So they basically, it is.
By the way, once you're in the TPP, there's like no escape clause.
There's no escape. It basically cedes sovereignty and creates a large economic union very similar to the EU, where countries in the TPP will have one vote on this board, I guess you could say. And Vietnam's vote has the same weight as the United States. And they can say that, well, we don't want this, or this is written into this. They can affect law over here in the United States from another country if they object to something or whatever.
Well, it gets worse because if you want to appeal things and all the findings, you have to go to the IMF. No, not the IMF, the World Bank and the UN.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yahoo.
And didn't Hillary Clinton say she wanted to be president of the World Bank a couple of years back?
Man, it is probably one of her aspirations, although I can't imagine that she has any aspiration left. I mean, look at her, dude. And I'm not saying that to be like shallow. I'm saying that in that she can't even she's not even presentable as a legitimate candidate.
Because she gets shot down, dude. They just keep ignoring all the stuff that's thrown at her.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
It's like buckets of cow crap. Just dumped on, like dump truck loads, just being dumped on Hillary's head. And she's like, that's not cow crap. She's Baghdad Bob.
He just died, by the way.
Did he?
Yeah, he just passed away. Really? He was, I guess he was sentenced to death, but he had a heart attack instead.
That's kind of shady. Huh?
Yeah, he just died. He was the only Christian, by the way, in Saddam Hussein's inner circle.
Baghdad Bob, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, was the PR guy that was like, Americans are not anywhere near Baghdad. And there's M1 Abrams tanks rolling around in the street behind him as he's on live TV. Yeah, that's Baghdad Bob. So
yeah.
That's Hillary Clinton. She's got like truckloads of crap being dumped on her, which is all true. And it's pointing out how much of a scumbag she is and all the scumbags that she associates with. And
it's all about the money, though, dude.
Yeah, but really, it's like, dude, it's almost like she's Teflon because it just rolls off, and there are still people that are like, she would make a great president.
But it's all about the money. It's who the banks want. It's who Big Pharma wants. It's all the big businesses.
Let's see what candidates next year go to Bilderberg.
Well, you heard what came out of this one. They want Hillary.
Oh, is that what the word is? They want Hitlery?
They want Hitlery.
Of course they do.
I mean, come on, dude.
Of course they do.
Would you expect any less? And here's the other thing, too. And I wanted to address this because is Bilderberg going on right now? Absolutely. Who cares? The thing is, this is all a ruse. Once it was made public, do you think they talk anything of substance at the stinking meetings?
Oh, they very well may, but they really don't care at this point.
They don't care. No, but anything of substance is talked about beforehand when they're meeting off on the side. See, when everybody's like, "Oh, Bilderberg's in 2 days." Wow, they've already met. You have to understand there's like video teleconferences and all this kind of stuff. People talk. They don't just have to go to Bilderberg to talk about this crap.
That stuff is more those roundtable groups.
It's pomp and circumstance, man. It's like,
well, a lot of it is more
flexing of the muscles.
A lot of it is like workshops and stuff like that. Like, you would go to a workshop to like learn something new about what.
Right. No doubt.
Almost
akin to like a think tank.
Yeah, it's like New World Order type workshops.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Stuff does come out of it. There are.
Oh yeah, no, there's no doubt. I mean, and they're probably all.
And
they're all probably engaged in extracurricular activities with each other too. And
I think it's good to talk about it and point it out every year.
You think they do? You think they bring goats in and have any rituals?
They might actually do slaughters and stuff. You don't know. I mean, these people are disgusting.
I'm just throwing it out there. But you know what? Kevin, chat room, he just said it best. He says, Bilderberg is for babies. Say it, Joe. You're right. It is. It's like it had its time, but its time is gone. See, now all it is distraction. That's distraction.
Well, they want the activists to focus there. Look, focus here. Pay attention to what the left hand is doing. Don't pay attention to what the right.
That's right.
Who wasn't at Bilderberg this year should be the question.
That's a toughie. There was a lot of politicians.
Were there
this year? A lot.
Again,
yeah.
It's all pot. Well, that's because it's posturing for next year. So, because remember, they actually believe there.
Yeah, but not American. It was a lot of EU. And and
look where it was. It was in the EU, wasn't it? In Germany or Austria?
Yeah, but there was there's of course a lot of attention with Greece, and I'll be honest with you, as much as we would think that Greece would have a negative impact, it's really one of the smaller economies of the EU, and if you want to play the game and look at some of the numbers, for example, Ireland, which at one time had some serious problems, they've just got I don't know, they've I guess their economy's doing a lot better now, but they're kind of being thrown out there as a success story, almost in Greece's face, hey, see, they cooperated, hey, look, they're doing all right now. What Greece really should do is do in Iceland, because they're set up for it. They're actually in better shape right now than Iceland was, because at least they produce stuff. I don't know what Iceland's economy is built on, but it can't be much.
Nordic lore.
Yeah, but I mean, but even Greece. Look at Greece. Greece, they could have a booming economy, but the thing is if you embark on that and you go ahead and say, I'm going to remove myself from that, well, then now you're kind of up to, you've got to restart the engine. So you've got to renegotiate things with any countries you trade with, and basically live within your means for a while.
Can I just point out that Ireland has a history of doing things like that?
Yeah,
I have Irish blood in me, but I'm not bashing Ireland or anything. But facts speak for themselves. During World War II, Ireland remained neutral.
Neutral.
Really? But we didn't get bombed by the Nazis. Wow.
See, Iceland's fish. It's fish. Fish is like the number one thing, just so you know. Oh, and by the way, Kev wanted to also point out that Ireland is not Scotland.
Yes, no, the Scottish fought in World War II.
Yes.
The Scots were always brave warriors. For some reason, I don't know why the Irish decided to stay out of World War II. We are going to remain neutral so we don't get bombed by the Nazis.
Now they like them French fried taters. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were going to go with whoever won. Very nice. Just saying, just pointing out facts. That's all.
Oh no, they're not like those French people, are they?
Well, the French fought. They got beat back.
No, I'm talking from the Navy days. You go over there, and of course, when you're brainwashed at the time, and here you are, you're enforcing the oil for food program, and France isn't participating, right? So it really all these countries that are taking part in this multinational effort.
Freedom fries.
Remember freedom fries, all that crap, dude. So of course, when you're pulling into places like Dubai and Jebel Ali and the United Arab, Doha, Qatar, places like that. Well, you see a lot of that, French will pull in and all. Well, of course, you almost feel obligated to have to say something. And it just sucks because had I known then what I know now, I wouldn't have said anything. It's like, damn, they were smart. Boy.
I know what you mean. You look at it, but see, that's that brainwash mentality of,
yeah, it really is.
It's the same thing. It's the same way they get you to hate the enemy, whatever it is, no matter who you're fighting. They get you to find something about them to focus on and dehumanize them, so they're not like you, because they know that, and this has been an ongoing problem in the military. They found out in World War II. What was it, only 30% of the Marines or something like that were shooting in battles were actually aiming for the other guy, because it wasn't a target. They weren't used to shooting at a human silhouette. So that's after World War II is when they changed the targets from being round to silhouette targets.
Isn't it interesting? I mean,
and now we have no hesitation targets.
Yeah. Again, where is all that going? No hesitation target.
You see it right now. Actually, that's the police brutality thing that you see. We can get into the TPP in the next segment, but that's the police brutality thing. That's why you see a rise of it. And people are like, no, they're just racist cops. No. They're playing this game of chess. I called this 6 months ago. Literally, exactly 6 months ago. And I did a show about this a year before. But 6 months ago, on the 1st of January of this year, go back in my archives and listen to it. I did a show. And I played audio from 1978 of Mae Brussel.
Yeah.
Talking about how they had plans, and people said it was fictitious, but there's a plan out there called the King Alfred Plan, where if civil unrest happened due to race riots, they would break the country up into 10 regions. Does that sound familiar at all?
No. But you mean
10 FEMA regions?
Get out.
Swear to God. 1978, Joe. I played audio on air of her from 1978 discussing this and talking about it.
And then, of course, 1979 is when FEMA's brought into existence via executive order.
Well,
it wasn't even created by Congress. It was an executive order.
Yeah, well, there you go. It's January 1st of 2015 was the show I did. Go listen to it. And now you have, all these years later, you're looking at what they're doing. See, what they're doing is they're this racism that everybody claims is there isn't actually real. There is don't get me wrong, there is real racism.
Sure.
But a lot of what you see the cops doing isn't racism, it's fear. It's based off of, them being fed crap, and people can say, well, it's racist. Well, maybe at the core, what they're being told might be quote unquote racist. Okay. Or there might be a belief based on race, underlying what they're being programmed with, but their actions come straight from fear. That's why they're acting out. And they're doing it to white people too, and everybody. It's not one of these kids, and I can't remember which one, but one of these kids that was shot, or one of these guys that was shot. I think it was the Coastie. The Coastie guy that was shot when he was running away.
Oh, right.
By the other Coastie. They were both retired Coast Guardsmen, by the way, I may add. Well done. So, that dude, his brother, said it's not a race thing. It's about a value of human life issue. That's what it's about. It's not race. See, this race thing is injected to piss people off and to bring...
Yeah, it's fake.
Yeah, that's done by the mainstream media and the government. The powers that shouldn't be, and their little pet lapdog scumbag shithead media talking heads that go out there and want to stir it. That's where that comes from. Like CNN's they're like the race baiting network. that network. Okay, they love pushing racism and trying to push race hate and everything else. They're the media and the government are the ones that are actually causing these problems. And then they get people all riled up, and then people act out, and then they point to them acting out as a reason to bring some about new legislation or ramp up police. And then they get the cops. They feed the cops the same crap too, where they're like, everybody wants to kill you, blah, 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 blah. They get the cops all amped up, and then you see the cops acting the way they are because they've been trained to, by the way, act like that and view the general public as scum by DHS for the past 10, 12 years, right? Yep. So now they have all this training, and then they're being injected with fear constantly, and you see what happened in McKinney, Texas at that pool party. That's the kind of stuff that happens because they're operating on fear. And people, and then the powers that shouldn't be that want to twist things go, look, race. And everybody jumps on it because they're emotional, because what they saw was really bad. It's a value of human life thing.
It really is. And yeah, the dehumanization. It's been a campaign for, gosh, and God knows, over 100 years, you know?
You know what the outcome of that is? You get the general public all pissed off. And what happens? You have people like Al Sharpton. We need to federalize the police.
Yeah, of course.
Hegelian
dialectic, my man.
Exactly. Their whole objective is to get a federalized police force. The only way to do it is to get the general public to call for it.
Yeah, and how do you do that? You foment violence.
Mm-hmm.
Make it so the police are afraid to go ahead and get involved.
Get the cops amped up on.
Then you get your
amped up on anger. Yep. Mix them together, shaken, not stirred, and like a dry ice bomb going off inside of a plastic container. All right, We're going to break, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned. Joe and I will be back in 3 short minutes. TPP coming up. Get ready. Take notes. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. So, Joe, I want to get into the TPP here for a little bit. I have some audio. Probably end up going for most of the clip or most of the segment with a couple of these clips, but it's important because it kind of breaks down the TPP for everybody. And I want people to understand, because the fast track is getting voted on tomorrow. Today's Thursday. It's getting voted on Friday, the 12th of June.
Yes.
So what you people need to do is get pissed off about this. Don't just listen to this radio show and be like, yeah, the TPP is bad.
Can I give an example of what people should be like?
And they should also make sure we have to get the phone numbers for like the main phone number for Congress.
It's probably already melting,
but just Google it.
In terms of level of pissed off, and I'm going to have to say, if you don't use profanity laced language when talking about this, then you're doing it wrong. You should be more like this.
What the fuck?
That's about right.
Oh, that should be the level of anger that
yes,
you have.
Almost. You remember how the SOPA people got pissed off and it failed.
By the way, that you bring up SOPA, because they call this.
It's like SOPA on steroids.
Yeah, but they call it like SOPA's big brother or big brother of SOPA or something, or brother.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, because SOPA's actually built into it.
Yeah, the internet portion of this thing, it covers everything. I mean, it covers like things down to like the privatization of hospitals and stuff in your country. And by the way, when your country signs onto it, it has to change all of your domestic laws to be in accordance with the agreement, which means
the Constitution's out the window.
Yeah, even your local laws, ladies and gentlemen. So what happens when they're like, hey, you know what? We don't want to have guns in the TPP countries anymore.
That's the same reason why that woman down in Florida that wanted to live off the grid, why she couldn't live off the grid, because it violated international living code or standard, whatever. It's a UN standard. But it's something that we're bound by treaty to follow. Isn't that interesting?
And you're going to see that more often if this.
Oh yeah, a lot more often. But again, let me say this: it's not going to work. Globalism doesn't work with borders. Globalism doesn't work with sovereignty. So you have to do away with that if that's the way you want to go. It's not okay, everybody. We're all human beings. Let's all get along, love each other, and mutual respect and kumbaya. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be their way or the highway.
Dude,
That's why they concentrated all the wealth first.
It's consolidating power into the
That's it.
of a few people that are
Yep.
gonna run the lives of millions of people. It's that
A
simple type of
plantation.
thing.
That's what it is.
And
Earth
people,
has become a plantation.
people are too. You know what? Like if this passes, right, they'll notice when they can't watch things on the internet anymore because of copyright restrictions. I'm going to play a clip, and you'll hear Lori Wallach, one of the people, talk about this. But she brings this. She's talking. She's I don't know. I guess you call her activist, whatever. She runs a couple different websites that, and she's one of the people that have brought most of the information about TPP out. And she explains basically that, like, say she had a recipe, and her and Mrs. Joe Joseph you guys were all hanging out, and Mrs. Joe Joseph is like, "Oh my God, I need this recipe." And Lori goes, "Okay, well, here, I'm going to give you the recipe. I paid $2 for it online, but here, I'm going to give it to you for free because you're my friend. I'm going to share it with you." Well, technically, that's violating copyright, but she didn't pay for it, right? So, like, there's really nothing wrong with it. It's kind of like fair use.
Yeah.
Under the TPP, no. You can get in trouble for that. And so Ange could get in trouble, and so could Lori.
Remember, you used to be able to get in trouble if you taped songs off the radio.
So that's the way it's going. You know
Right.
when VCRs first came out, the movie industry was against VCRs.
Oh, of course, dude. Big time.
They said it was going to destroy the movie industry. Yeah. Nice false predictions. But that same type of fear-mongering actually got Congress to, I forget what laws it was a couple of years ago, to pass some copyright garbage. And they used the same type of crap. Oh, my God, it's going to destroy us. It's the same
Oh, get this.
crap
Get
they
this.
said about VCRs.
Oh, it gets, but wait, there's more. So the Digital Millennium Act, or whatever the heck it is, the DCMA, that's the new copyright governing law that encompasses like the internet and things like that. Well, now car manufacturers are actually considering going to court or put forth new law saying that you can't work on those cars because doing so violates the DCMA because they're so computer controlled now, and that's proprietary. So how about that? Pretty soon you can work on your car if you wanted to.
Would those be the same automakers, the exact same ones that all got government bailouts?
Well, Ford didn't. Yeah, but I mean, they're all on board with that, dude. That only stands to benefit them. You telling me that how many people out there actually go to the dealer to get their car serviced? I mean, who can afford that?
Only people with a warranty.
But I mean, outside of that, who can afford that?
Most people don't. Well, most of the time, people, by the time their warranty is up, they just go to like the local place to get oil changes and stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, or they do it themselves, but they don't take it to the dealer because they know what happens when you go there. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you go there and you're supposed to get, that's the best work, or they know their stuff the best. Yeah. Okay. All right. You get ass raped at the dealer. That's basically what happens. So, and not to mention, you just can't afford it. So why not drive the business back to the dealerships using the DCMA? Yeah, all of a sudden, yes, everything's computer controlled. It's too complicated. People will mess it up, or they could steal the technology now that everything's computer controlled. And
Right.
as a result, no, it's proprietary. Can't touch it.
Now that's here at home, though. Can you imagine under the TPP, that same prevailing mentality,
Yeah.
but it's a foreign corporation, and so basically, like, say a foreign corporation wanted to come into like your backyard, right? And they wanted to come into like your area where you guys live, and they wanted to, let's say, build a storage facility for hazardous materials. They own a company. They own a company inside the United States, and that company specializes in hazardous materials. And they build a storage area in your back. They can just build it in your backyard. They don't have to deal. They don't have to. They no longer have to go to like the zoning board or the health department because our federal government has signed this treaty. So our laws have to bend to the whim of this treaty. So as long as the corporation follows what the treaty says they have the right to do, which gives
Right.
like uber power, then they're not violating anything, and the local authorities can't do anything. And
No, very
you have
good.
no say. So you could have toxic
Right.
crap leaking into your water, into your soil. You guys have wells. You could have all sorts of toxic crap leaking into it, and you can't do anything. And if your government actually tries to do something, these corporations will sue your government for billions of dollars. It's happening right now. In fact, here,
That's right. Now, the other thing that
I'm gonna when you're done, I'm gonna set it up, but I'm gonna play a clip showing some of this evidence. So people,
yeah, that's cool, man. The other thing that the TPP is going to do is it's going to give the executive branch amnesty authority with regards to immigration. You know, that got put in there as well.
Isn't that Marco Rubio that snuck that little gem in there?
I'm sure. I mean, come on. Who cares who did it? They're all on the same team. Yeah, play that clip. That's
By the way, somebody was pointing out the other day. They were talking about on radio how I was driving back from Miami, and I heard that the AM idiots talking about how Rubio got 13. His wife got like 13 parking tickets, and some people were like, "Who cares?" And other people were like, "Oh well, how did she get so many tickets?" Obviously, she's a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. Okay. So what it shows you is her attitude. I don't care about the fact that she got the tickets. All that's window dressing. But it shows you her attitude. Like, she just doesn't care. Like, she thinks that who she is, because she's married to a politician and she's a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. Obviously,
who's that? You mean Ted Cruz?
no. Isn't Rubio's wife too? Isn't she?
I don't know.
Well, whatever. Even if she's not a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, I know Cruz's wife.
No, I'm the wife of Marco Rubio. You don't know.
Exactly. And he's a connected politician. He's a PNAC little stooge D-bat. I can't stand him. He keeps saying New American Century, and no one's putting the dots together, dude. Nobody's like, Project for a New American Century? Rebuilding America's defenses? Oh, a year later, 9/11 happens? Oh.
No, that's so like 1999, dude.
Oh, I know. It's so 13 years ago. I'm sorry.
Short memory.
I look in the past. Anyway, you could see the point is you could see the people that this underlying attitude of like, I'm married to so and so, or I'm connected to with such and such a group, or I'm part of whatever.
Exactly.
And it makes me better than the laws that I think
I'm privileged
should turn around and enforce on you very people. So it's
Right.
this mentality of royalty. And then now these very same people are being bought off by these corporate entities. And we know that these corporations are all owned by a small group of individuals, right? So it's really it's more so the people that own these corporations that run stuff, via their CEOs and all this crap. And long story short, you literally have this prevailing attitude of we're royalty and you're going to have to eat it. And that's what this whole TPP thing is pretty much just like, it's their way of bringing about this more consolidated control, their elite few to have over your life. Think about the fact that you could literally, you don't have a say in what they're going to do in your backyard. Some foreign corporation just coming into your house, into your backyard, Joe, and poisoning your water and your food.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing is that's only if I consent. I still don't have to consent.
Well, no, you can fight it like I mean, there's always insurgency. I'm not saying that you just sit back and take it in the face, but you know what I mean. Like, it shouldn't. If people understood how this government was, how the country was set up, the corporations back in the day used to have to like beg to get a charter from the government. They used to have to prove they had a worth. They used to have to prove that their worth was they had something of value for the citizenry of the country.
Right,
if they
exactly.
didn't produce anything for this country, they didn't get a charter.
It's funny that you talk about all this. Really, that treaty's only as powerful as we're willing to let it be. Just so everybody knows, and it's abundantly clear, we don't have to participate. And it doesn't take long, as far as non-participation is concerned, to crash everything and have to hit the reset button. So, just saying, you don't even have to fire a shot. All you got to do is just do nothing.
I say it all the time. That's what I mean by the solutions to our problems are an inside job.
Yep.
Just if you live your life in a manner that makes them irrelevant, and everybody else starts to do the same, because people will start seeing the beginning. It's always the first couple people. They're like, "Oh, it's really hard." Of course, it's really hard. You're the trendsetter. You're the one cutting a new path.
But freedom is hard. Yeah, it's hard.
Well, this country's gotten lazy. That's the problem, Joe. This country's gotten too used to freedom. What did Jefferson say? The difference between freedom and tyranny is only a generation.
Oh man, yeah, if that.
That effect. So, I mean, that's why they do what they do with the brainwashing. Anyway, let me. I'm going to set this up to play here really quick. There's a couple pieces of audio. I'll play the longer one on the other side because it's about 12 and a half minutes. It's from Democracy Now! And although I'm not a huge fan of Democracy Now!, this interview they did with Lori Wallach last year, it's.
How do you really feel about Democracy Now!?
You know, where's the anti-war stance? Oh, that's right. Yeah, your guy's the president, so you don't worry. They'll get loud as soon as a Republican gets back in next time, because that's what they're. You know how they do it. 8 years Dem, 8 years Republican, so they blow off steam. Although the builder douches want Hitlery, so who knows? Maybe they'll go off. Maybe they'll go off script. Yeah, I mean, things are so unpredictable right now. They're in panic mode. You never know. Anyway, I want to play this clip. First is it's called TPP, the dirtiest trade deal you've never heard of. And then I'm going to play one about the internet provisions. But this is an overall, it's about 2.5 minutes. It gives a good general idea of the overall bill. Now listen to this, or the overall treaty itself. Now listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. Take notes. And I know you might not think it does anything, but you should get everybody that you know, send out mass emails, tweet, Facebook, YouTube, Google Plus, everything.
Big social media blitz.
Yeah, go out and just freak out, send out all these videos about TPP, get people riled up, pissed off, and have them call Congress, email, melt the phone lines, crash the email system. Let these people know that you're pissed and that you know what's up and you don't want this. You don't want fast track.
And by the way, before you play that clip, I just want to issue a challenge to Representative Paul Ryan and the Speaker of the House, John Boehner.
Crybaby, boner.
We have a solution to your problem. Very easy one. So what we propose is a steel cage match between you two and me and Popeye. And the winner, of course, if you win, you get your TPP. If we win, if we win, what do we do?
If you win, they have to leave, and the other 300 and whatever it is, some odd scumbags of Congress have to pack their crap and leave too.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. Better yet, let's the hell with steel cage match. Let's do Thunderdome. What do you think?
I'll make it even. They can have bats, and I'll just do hand-to-hand combat.
I like the chainsaw myself.
No, they can have weapons. I won't need it.
I just want to. This isn't good.
Steel cage man. Boner would come out crying.
Yeah, he'd be like, "Boo!"
What would be his wrestling name? The Crying Speaker or something?
The throbbing member.
Yeah, God, he is.
Oh boy, the sobbing member. Yeah, that's it.
he's. I mean, seriously, we just call him Crybaby. That would be his wrestling name.
Yeah.
Come out in a pair of pink shorts with a bunch of tears on the ass cheeks.
That's it.
Like in a pair of hands rubbing the eyes as the tears come squirting out. That's John Boehner's wrestling outfit.
Ugh. And then of course you got Paul Ryan, pretty boy Paul.
He'd be like Ric Flair. Woo!
Yeah.
Some old school WWF, yes, before the World Wildlife Foundation sued them and made them change it. Oh man, we live in no wonder aliens don't talk to us. I'm just saying.
I know.
People wonder why the aliens. How come aliens haven't come down?
Because they're not crazy. That's why.
Would you come down here?
No.
They're like, Earth is a cool place to like check out from afar, but don't get too close to natives.
Be like, veil? What veil? What do you think? I need a veil? I'm not going over there.
Exactly. All right. Anyway, let me play these two clips about the TPP. Here we go. The Trans-Pacific Partnership, the dirtiest trade deal you've never heard of.
Right now, big banking, software, pharmaceutical, and tobacco corporations are lobbying governments from 12 countries to negotiate the dirtiest deal you've never heard of. There's a reason you haven't heard of the TPP, or Trans-Pacific Partnership. There are some major corporations and government officials that don't want you to know what's in the deal. For one, our food safety standards, environmental protections, and local labor laws could all be threatened under the TPP. We could all be forced to pay significantly more for the medicines we need, and you could be fined or even sent to jail for downloading copyrighted content on the internet. How will they know if you do it? Because your internet service providers could be required to watch your online activity. But that's not even the scariest part. The TPP gives corporations the power to sue our government in secret foreign tribunals over any law or regulation they claim affects their expected future profits. Don't believe it? It's already happening. Recently, after Canada said U.S. big pharma corporation Eli Lilly's drug price-raising patents were not legit, the firm sued the Canadian taxpayers for a staggering $500 million. And now billions of dollars are being demanded from Germany after it decided to phase out nuclear power following the Fukushima disaster and improve environmental standards for coal-fired electric plants. Philip Morris and Chevron are in on the game too, raiding taxpayer dollars and trying to reverse crucial policies we all rely on. Thankfully, not everyone is willing to sign on the dotted line just yet. In fact, most government officials still have no idea what they're even signing on to, for good reason. So far, Democrats and Republicans in the House of Representatives have united against fast-tracking the TPP. But there is a mighty corporate lobby that wants to make sure the deal is signed and railroaded quickly through Congress before we know about the damage it will cause us. We must get our senators and representatives to stop fast track. Here's the deal. Without a strong public outcry, politicians will only hear the concerns of multinational corporations. And once the TPP is signed, it's here forever. There's no expiration date and no separation clause. This dirty deal has been deliberately branded as a free trade agreement. It is anything but free for people like you and me. And it's not really about trade. It could cost us our internet freedom, labor rights, access to affordable medicine, the safety of our food, and protections that keep our water and air clean. Nobody wants to be stuck with a backroom deal we don't want and never voted for. Find out more, speak up, and spread the word.
The biggest threat to the internet you've probably never heard of.
The TPP is the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement. TPP is a trade agreement being negotiated between more than 12 countries around the Pacific region. It has more than 26 chapters, and it covers a broad spectrum of issues, from trade of dairy, meat, textiles, and automobiles, to financial regulation, to labor regulations, and more. But one chapter poses a huge threat to the internet, the chapter concerning intellectual property enforcement.
We can't exactly know what's in that chapter because TPP is being negotiated in secret through a series of backroom deals that shut out the public. Trade officials won't release the text of the agreement or even tell us what their policy positions are on any issue. One thing we know is that while the public is shut out of the negotiating process, private corporate interests aren't. In particular, big content industries are spending ginormous amounts of money in lobbying to convince policymakers that more aggressive and draconian copyright laws will lead to more innovation, more creativity, and more jobs. But in reality, that just isn't the case.
If adopted, the copyright enforcement measures proposed in the TPP could make the internet intimidating and repressive. Users will be afraid to view, share, and interact with digital content. An early version of the text has been leaked, and you should be worried about what's inside. Internet service providers could be forced to become private copyright enforcers, lest they risk liability for the content posted by their users. While the TPP includes certain protection from liability, experience with similar provisions in the US suggests that ISPs will be encouraged to take down, filter, and block legitimate content, requiring only a private notice from an alleged copyright holder.
The copyright industry is obsessed with restricting users from tinkering with devices and content, out of the fear that people will then use them for copyright infringing purposes. So what they do is install digital rights management software, or DRM, on devices to limit what users can do. Despite growing evidence that DRM does much more harm than good, this prevents consumers from unlocking their phones to change telecom carriers. Artists, like documentary filmmakers, who break encryption on a DVD or sample online streaming videos could face legal threats, even if the videos they create are legal. People with visual or reading disabilities can be prevented from changing the format of books and movies to make them more accessible. Not only that, DRM, backed by the full force of the law, can be used to stifle competition. For example, a company can block unauthorized software or content from working with their devices just by enabling DRM. Corporations claim that DRM is necessary to fight copyright infringement online and keep consumers safe from viruses. But there's no evidence that DRM does much to combat either of those things. Fans should not be treated like criminals, and companies should not get an automatic veto over user creativity, choice, and innovation. These are only some of the problems with the TPP's copyright enforcement provisions. They would be harmful for everyone, except for companies that use these policies to suppress innovative competitors or to criminalize sharing. Instead of spending their resources to create new products that respect the internet and new technologies, they're lobbying for policies that would hinder and break them. Severe copyright policies restrict our right to share, modify, and experiment with content and technology. Innovation cannot thrive without these freedoms. Internet users need to know what is going on in these secret trade negotiations. Internet users have a right to participate in this powerful international deal that will impact millions of lives for decades to come. Let's show our policymakers that we won't let backroom trade deals determine what we can do with our technology. Let's show them that we, the users, are unified against corporate efforts to restrict our rights. The internet is ours. It's up to us to defend it.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Give about a minute and a half for a break. I'll play the other clip on the other side. It's about 12 minutes long. I want you to hear what Lori Wallach has to say about it because she gets in depth. Now, this is from last year. Now, I know that we've all been busy in the alternative media, but doesn't this point out and show you how they do things? The powers that shouldn't be. There's
a lot of distraction out there right now, isn't there?
Bingo. Nobody's had their eye on the ball with the TPP joke because everybody's had their hands full with all the other insanity. Well, it's done on purpose. So that's how they do things. Misdirection, like magicians, sleight of hand. They have more in common with a magician in Las Vegas than you think, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, I can hear the break music coming up behind us, Joe. When we get back, we'll finish up with the TPP, and then we can get back onto the subject of the police brutality thing, because you and I were having a really good conversation about that earlier off air. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. 3 short minutes, and Joe and I will be right back. If you want to hear all of my archives ever put out, all of the shows I've ever done, interviews, go over to PopeyeRadio.com. PopeyeRadio.com. That's PopeyeRadio.com. Joe and I will be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I am your host, Popeye, of FederalJack.com, PopeyeRadio.com, and you can also find my stuff over on YouTube, DTRH Radio Archives. DTRH, like Down the Rabbit Hole, Radio Archives over on YouTube. That's the channel. Go subscribe to it. All my older stuff is there as well. There might be 1 or 2 things that are the one spot where everything is audio-wise, totally free. And I mean, everything I've ever done is over on PopeyeRadio.com. That's PopeyeRadio.com. Anyway, enough shameless self-promotion. You know, Joe, you have your own site for the radio show, do you not?
Yes, the freedomlink.net.
There you go. Freedomlink.net.
The freedomlink.net. Yep. And hey, I got a question over Facebook about the TPP.
Shoot.
And it's from a friend of mine here, my friend Tim here, locally. He's tuned in. He asked, could the federal hack, on the Office of Personnel and Management, Personnel Management, the OPM, could the federal hack that just took place be used as leverage to assure passage of the TPP?
Yeah, anything's possible. I mean, think about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's
they can just blame
certainly-
hackers, and then
No,
they'll blame
it's never that
or Russia.
Yeah, it's not like Kevin in mom's basement going and hacking the OPM. No, but I will say this, that yeah, it absolutely could be used as fodder. One thing that I've noticed, at least as far as some of the reporting's done, and who knows what's the truth these days, but according to one article I read, all these identities are being traded on the dark net. So, I mean, how it's being used as leverage or what? It could very well be.
They'll use it to attack the internet, and then, but
sure.
Even if they don't use it as leverage, they could use it as a reason to attack the internet and say, "See, we need the TPP, the dark net." Right. Another thing I said months
or more regulation.
Yeah, another thing I called months ago was that they were going to demonize the dark net. I said it on air. I said, "You watch, they're going to start because they were starting to do it. I could see it in the media." They kept saying darknet, 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 and I was like, that's like 96% of the internet, ladies and gentlemen. So you know, only like 4% of the internet.
Yeah, it's like the universe. Successful. Like matter. How much of a percentage?
Picture
the scientists say make up the all the matter. I think it's like 8%, maybe.
Picture Google and Bing, Joe, being Earth, and the darknet is the rest of the universe.
Exactly. I know it's huge.
But like I
said, it's just like the universe. Dark matter makes up like 90% of whatever, right? Well, that's and as a matter of fact, I just saw a scientist come out with that today.
But if you
they were saying,
if you didn't, if you didn't know that, you would be like, "Oh my god!" You'd be afraid, and that's what they're doing. They're like, "Be afraid of the big bad universe."
Kev sent this to me. Distinguished scientists gathered to emphasize matter is not the only reality. Duh. Here's a quote by Nikola Tesla. The day science begins to study non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in one decade than in all the previous centuries of its existence.
Scientists used to mention the term ether.
Ether.
I'm not talking about the stuff that you spray into your intake when your engine's not working.
Oh, I thought maybe the stuff you huff.
Well, that's the same stuff.
Oh, same stuff.
Yes. I wouldn't know anything about that. I'm just saying.
Right.
Same stuff.
Hey, man, pass the paper bag.
We used to use ether for a different reason. We used to use it to start motors when they would.
Yeah, I know. Starting fluid.
You ever see flames shoot out of a carburetor?
Oh yeah.
I have a few times. Ether is also good to make like homemade flamethrowers, but you got to be careful because that flame travels up into the can real quick, and that could end up bad. Anyway, I don't suggest you do any of this at home, ladies and gentlemen. It's just, I guess, knowledge of a misspent youth. Anyway, I want to play this clip about the TPP, and then we can get into the other stuff. But it's about 11 minutes, and this is a clip. I narrowed it down because like the first minute and a half was just them, blah 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 blah. So it's from a year ago, and it's from Democracy Now. And I can't remember the websites that Lori Wallach it runs and everything. You'll hear Amy Goodman introduce her. So, I have it set right there. So you don't have to hear any of the pompous garbage and all this other crap. I want you just to hear the meat and potatoes of what this lady has to say. Now, this is from a year ago, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so this isn't something new. It's just they've thrown so much at everybody that it's hard to pay attention to everything.
It is true.
And while they have you looking over here at the left hand, the right hand is jamming it right in your rear without you knowing.
No lubricant either.
No, that's no sand, and that's what. And I'm being
like 60 grit.
Yeah, and I'm being like mean and kind of crude about it because look, I have to kind of shock you into reality and get you to see what's going on. They're trying.
Yeah, 60 grit will definitely shock you into reality. That's for sure.
Jesus, Joe.
Good God.
Oh, my God. Yes, it will. Anyway, here's the clip from Democracy Now! With Lori Wallach. Here we go. This is a little bit more in-depth about what the TPP really is. She calls it a corporate Trojan horse. Check it out.
TPP is often referred to by critics as NAFTA on steroids, and would establishing a free trade zone that would stretch from Vietnam to Chile, encompass 800 million people, about a third of world trade and nearly 40% of the global economy. While the text of the treaty has been largely negotiated behind closed doors, more than 600 corporate advisors reportedly have access to the measure, including employees of Halliburton and Monsanto. Well, for more, we're joined by Lori Wallach, Director of Public Citizens Global Trade Watch. Lori, welcome back to Democracy Now! Just explain what the TPP is.
Well, one of the most important things to understand is it's not really mainly about trade. I guess the way to think about it is as a corporate Trojan horse. The agreement has 29 chapters, and only 5 of them have to do with trade. The other 24 chapters either handcuff our domestic governments, limiting food safety, environmental standards, financial regulation, energy and climate policy, or establishing new powers for corporations. For instance, there are the same investor privileges that promote job offshoring to lower wage countries. There is a ban on buy local procurement so that corporations have a right to do sourcing, basically taking our tax dollars and instead of investing them in our local economies, sending them offshore. There are new rights to, for instance, have freedom to enter other countries and take natural resources, a right for mining, a right for oil, gas, without approval. And then there's a whole set of very worrisome issues relating to internet freedom. Through sort of the back door of the copyright chapter of TPP is a whole chunk of SOPA, the Stop Online Piracy Act, that activism around the country successfully derailed a year ago. Think about all the things that it would be really hard to get into effect as a corporation in public. A lot of them rejected here and in the other 11 countries, and that is what's bundled in to the TPP. And every country would be required to change its laws domestically to meet these rules. The binding provision is each country shall ensure the conformity of domestic laws, regulations, and procedures. Now, the only reason I know that level of detail is because a few texts have leaked, and I have been following the negotiations and grilling negotiators from other countries to try and find between the lines what the hell is going on. Otherwise, totally secret.
Well, Lori, about that secrecy, even members of Congress have been severely limited in what they can learn, and that's only after the revelations about the total secrecy that this whole process began with. Could you talk about what members of Congress are allowed to know and how?
Well, what's really important for people to know, and this gets to what you started out with about fast track, Congress has exclusive constitutional authority over trade. It's kind of like the Boston Tea Party hangover. After having a king just impose tariffs, in that case on tea, the founders said, we need to put all things about trade, international commerce, in the hands of Congress, the most diffuse part of the elected representation, not the executive, the king. So Congress has all this authority. They're supposed to be exclusively in control, but until this June, they were not even allowed to see the draft text. And it was only after a big great fuss was kicked up by a lot of members, 150 of them wrote last year, that finally members of Congress, upon request for the particular chapter, can have a government administration official bring them a chapter. Their staff is thrown out of the room. They can't take detailed notes. They're not supposed to talk about what they saw. And they can, without staff to help them figure out what the technical language is, look at a chapter. This is in contrast to, say, even what the Bush administration did. The last time we had one of these mega NAFTA expansion attempts was the Free Trade Area of the Americas. And in that instance, in 2001, that whole draft text was released to the public by the U.S. government on the official government websites. So this is extraordinary secrecy, and members of Congress aren't supposed to tell anyone what they've read. So, for instance, Alan Grayson, who was one of the guys who helped get the text released, Alan Grayson said, I can tell you it's very bad for the future of America. I just can't tell you why. That's obscene. This would rewrite wide swaths of our laws. And again, it's mainly not about trade. So if we had this agreement in effect, for instance, it would be a big push for fracking. Now you would say, why fracking? Because it doesn't allow us to have bans on liquid natural gas exports. Or if this were in effect, we couldn't ensure the safety of the food we feed our families. We have to import For instance, fish and shrimp that we know from the limited inspection that's done is extremely dangerous from certain kinds of growing ponds that are contaminated, etc., in some of the TPP countries. Or, for instance, some of the financial reforms where the banksters were finally regulated would be rolled back. All of this, and it would be privately enforceable by certain foreign corporations.
Let me ask you about a bill that didn't make it through Congress.
I'm going to pause it for a second. Did you hear? Did you hear what you just said? All of this is enforceable by private corporations.
Yep.
So does that mean you're going to have Blackwater coming in at the behest
Could very well be.
some of these private corporations and SWAT teaming people's houses, and the local sheriff and police are just going to stand by and watch it happen because they're powerless to do anything?
Yeah, it's legal. It's legal, just like civil asset forfeiture is legal, right? Does it make it lawful? Does it make it right? Of course not.
Oh,
but it's legal.
Yeah, the things the Nazis did in 1950
Right, that was legal.
Germany was quote unquote legal too. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to point out that it's halfway through, and that when I first heard this last year, that was something that stuck out to me. That's why I dug this out, because I was like, if I'm going to talk about the TPP, I want to play this clip. It's all enforceable, Joe, by private corporations. Think about that for a minute.
That's right.
Just chew on that while I play the rest of the video, ladies and gentlemen.
But the question is it incorporated into TPP? And that's SOPA, the Stop Online Piracy Act. First, explain what it is and talk about where it fits in here.
So the Stop Online Piracy Act was a vehicle basically to take away some of our rights on the internet. It would have criminalized what they call inadvertent small-scale non-commercial copying. And the example would be, for instance, Juan, I had you over to dinner. You liked the recipe I had. I happened to have taken it for $2. I paid for it off of a paid website. And you said, Lori, can you send me that recipe? And of course, I said, yeah, and I sent it to you. That is officially a copyright violation. I should say you have to go pay $2 and get it yourself, Juan. But in fact, it's small scale. I didn't sell it. It's not commercial. I didn't send it to a lot of people. That kind of activity under SOPA, as well as any number of things we do all the time, making a copy, well, like a buffer copy that our computer would make to look at a video, or breaking a digital lock, for instance, if we bought software but we wanted to run it on Linux. All of those things would be considered criminal activities. We'd face huge fines, and our carriers, Google, etc., would have to take us off of service to black us out. So a huge limit on internet freedom. That whole mess was defeated in Congress in a wonderful citizen uprising. A chunk of that is now stuck in the copyright chapter of SOPA, of TPP. So they call TPP son of SOPA. And in a lot of countries around the TPP region, citizens have fought to have good laws that actually provide them access and don't allow that kind of control. So that is a chunk. To give you an idea of how varied the problems are, that's a chunk of what is in there. Now, the thing about that fast track you mentioned, fast track is not in effect. Fast track is an extraordinary delegation of Congress's authority. So if we don't want unsafe food, offshore jobs, SOPA, limits on internet freedom, the banksters getting rolled back into deregulation, we have to make sure that Congress actually maintains its constitutional authority to make sure that before this agreement can be signed, it actually works for us. Fast track's a delegation of authority. President Obama's asked for it, but it only happens if Congress gives it to him.
And Lori, what's been the Obama administration's position on these negotiations in terms of tobacco? Could you talk about that specifically?
Well, the whole approach of the Obama administration has really been, some combination of heartbreaking and infuriating. Because when he was a candidate, President Obama promised he would replace the NAFTA model. And instead, they've doubled down. So the tobacco issue is one of those that's the most gruesome. So the TPP includes the very controversial investor-state system, which empowers individual corporations to directly sue governments, not in our courts, but in extrajudicial tribunals where 3 corporate attorneys act as judges. And these guys rotate between being the judge and being the guy suing the government for the corporation. They're empowered to give unlimited cash damages from us, the taxpayers, to these corporations for any government action, a regulatory issue, environment, health, safety, that undermines the investor's expected future profits. Under that system, big tobacco companies have been attacking health regulations. And famously, infamously, these kinds of investor state cases have extracted billions of dollars and undermined important laws. So Philip Morris has used this to attack Australia, one of the TPP countries, plain packaging of cigarette laws. So a lot of the TPP countries are very worried that they would be basically handcuffed from being able to regulate for health around tobacco. So the U.S. originally was going to offer an exception. Big Tobacco came in and basically won the day. The U.S. pulled away what was a medium exception, put in something that's really worse than nothing. And then Malaysia came in and actually offered a real exception, which the U.S. is opposing. Just like the U.S. is opposing an exception to maintain financial regulations for prudential reasons. Just like the U.S. is opposing a real exception to those investor tribunals with respect to health and the environment. It's incredibly depressing. The only good news is a bunch of the other countries have basically said, basta, we are not going to roll back these things. So the reason there isn't a deal is because a lot of the other countries are standing up to the worst of these U.S. corporate-inspired demands. You can see the whole lay of this at Expose the TPP, www.expose the TPP. There are fact sheets on each of the ways, each aspect of your life that TPP could affect. And if you want to get down into the weeds and have long papers explaining and or information from other countries, you can go to tradewatch.org. That's tradewatch.org. Between those two sets of information, you'll see there's almost no part of your life or the things you care about that this agreement couldn't undermine. And again, trade's the least of it.
Lori Wallach, we want to thank you very much for being with us. Lori Wallach is Director of Public Citizens Global Trade.
All right, so there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Important stuff to know.
Yeah.
Go do your research tonight when we get off air. Do a little more research into TPP. This is just like a red flag waving quick course on it. Like, hey, pay attention to this. They're voting on whether to give fast track authority tomorrow. So I suggest you light the phone lines at Congress up like a Christmas tree.
Yeah,
just
if you're in the D.C. area or whatever, just make yourself heard.
Well, anyway, what are you going to do?
Oh, I know, but I mean, like, if you're there, go make yourself heard.
Oh, well, that too. Local protesters, look, all of you are affected by this.
This is huge.
There's not one group that's not affected by this.
Nope. And I mean, we've seen what happened in the EU. Look at what it did to the UK. They can't have their fox hunts since they entered the EU. It's illegal.
And who's going to fight this? No one seems to.
We have to.
No, I mean, if people are waiting for some schmuck in a suit, you have a day left. You need to get up and you need to tell these representatives, dude, this ain't cool. And I'm not down with fast track authority. The whole reason, what they're doing is they're just saying, we don't want to debate this. Go ahead. We'll give.
No, we're going to shirk our responsibility and delegate it to the executive branch and basically give carte blanche.
Because if this was debated on and any of this stuff was made public, none of it would pass because of the stuff.
Of course, it wouldn't pass.
Or that the corporations get.
But that should tell anybody enough. If it has to be secret, it can't be good. Period. I mean, I don't give a. In the interest of national security, screw national security. Look, when you're talking about the livelihood of human beings, it's a problem. Everybody should know. You should take the time to read this thing or what's available of this thing. It's not good.
It affects every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
Not just work. I mean, everything, internet usage, everything. That's why I played the first two clips about what it is overall and then the internet part of it.
I remember seeing a good T-shirt on, you remember that website, tshirthell.com?
I love that website.
It's like one of the best sites ever. If you're easily offended,
don't go there.
Don't go there.
Get your pants in a bunch.
Please don't go there.
Have a somewhat of a. If you ever listened to Hangar 18,
it's like Hangar 18 T-shirt store.
Yeah,
basically. Okay, but they had a T-shirt there that really says it all, and this is the mantra of the powers that shouldn't be, and this is what this TPP does. They had a picture of the pyramids and these, people pulling the blocks behind them, and it simply said, as a T-shirt that says slavery gets shit done.
And the sad part is they're
absolutely right. It does.
And that's what, well, I mean, what was that? What is it? Was it Ghost who had the quote about who was it? I think it was him who had no man, and I'm going to murder the quote, but no man is more enslaved than he who thinks he's free, or something along.
Yeah, to that effect. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. You're right.
So like people think we have freedom.
Well, because that's okay. So it's a narrative. It's something that they put out there. It's like Bernaysian. Yeah, freedom, torches of freedom. Does that mean that cigarettes are actually torches of freedom that you need to hold proudly in the air to promote women's lib? No, it's just something they call it. Oh yeah. We live in the land of the free. Just because you call it the land of the free doesn't mean it's the land of the free.
Well,
but when you hear that, you immediately associate your surroundings with free. But it's not. It's anything but. It's an illusion of freedom, but you don't have freedom. If you really take the time and look at your life, you telling me you're free? I mean, I try to remove myself as much as I can, even to the point of living in another dimension. And I still run up against crap from time to time. So you're only as free as the work you're willing to put into it, just like anything else. And it's hard to maintain freedom. It's hard. It's a lot of work. But it's very rewarding too. But you have to remove yourself. And you can do it. You can do it. And we need to remove ourselves from TPP, because that is not the type of globalism we're looking for. When you look at free humanity, that's not it, dude. That's enslaved humanity.
Well, I'd like to bring something up before we go to break, because along the same thing about the whole mind control thing, and this might piss off some people, but as a veteran, I understand how it could, but at the same time, if you look deeper into things like I do, it's a very fitting quote. And this lady's a famous activist, and I'm going to murder her name because I can't pronounce her first name properly, but it's I think it's Arund Hati Roy. She's an Indian lady, I think, if I remember correctly. But her quote is, "Flags are bits of colored cloth that governments use first to shrink wrap people's brains, and then as ceremonial shrouds to bury the dead. When independent thinking people, and here I do not include the corporate media, begin to rally under flags, when writers, painters, musicians, filmmakers suspend their judgment and blindly yoke their art to the service of, quote, the nation, it's time for all of us to sit up and worry."
Yeah.
Now, that might offend some people, but if you think about the depth of that profound quote, that's exactly what happened in the lead up to the Iraq War.
Absolutely. It's not the first time it's happened. This is...
And it's happening again. They're doing it again with Syria and ISIS now, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Did you notice, too, there was an article out today that said, by the way...
dirty bomb garbage.
No, Al-Qaeda's on the verge of collapse.
Oh, really? Because I heard 2 weeks ago that Al-Qaeda, 2-3 weeks ago, that Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, and ISIS had all merged into like Super Cobra, and now we were forming G.I. Joe to fight them.
Oh, God.
It's the Al-Qaeda underground base where like the sand moves and it shifts, and all of a sudden this like dome comes out and it opens up and jets fly out. Yeah. It's just, really, people? I mean, what do you think Benghazi was? We were arming Syrian rebels. We were running guns. Hey, but don't pay any mind to that. Let's actually get caught up in a different reason. Let's be mad at Hillary from Benghazi. Let's not actually focus on the fact that they were running guns. How about that, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, both sides. Stay tuned. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Final segment of tonight's live edition of DTRH. Wow, that went by fast, Joe.
Show did, man. Show did.
All right, so we've talked about TPP. I want to switch gears now. I want to get back to the the police brutality issue.
Oh boy,
and some of the underlying things there. Again, that profound statement by that guy, the one guy who was shot by, he was running away from the cop. He was a retired ghostie. Yeah, and the other guy who shot him was a retired ghostie.
You guys are like that?
Yeah, I know.
Is there like some sort of, are there like cliques inside the Coast Guard?
Yeah, it's just like the Navy.
Yeah, but I mean, not so much. I mean, yeah, there are. Like, for example, the Seabees are a little bit weird. They do some weird stuff. Same with the SEALs. They do even weirder stuff.
I had guys on my boat that I wasn't friends with, but like one time I saw one of them out on South
but
Beach.
You're right. The ship culture, same thing.
Yeah,
it's like a little mini city.
He was getting messed with, and even though I didn't like him, he had like 3 guys surrounding him, and I walked over and I grabbed the biggest dude and I pinned him against the wall and ended the argument real quick, and then got him out and just grabbed him by the back of his neck, and we kind of walked out of there. And I didn't even like him, but you know how it is. You never leave one of your fellow.
I could just see you doing that right now, like, oh gosh, gotta take you all on one at a time.
Oh no, dude, they didn't even see me coming. I just walked up and yoked the guy up by his throat right against the wall. I took the biggest one, smashed him, and then grabbed my friend, and we took off. Because he was drunk. He was drunk. He was of no use. So, my only goal was to get him out of trouble and get him back to the ship before we got caught fighting. Because you know how it is. It's not like when you're a civilian, you can just knock somebody out and then run away.
I just found it. I found it kind of odd, this whole behavior thing, though, with the comp man. It's like I understand the programming that's going on. I understand the fear that is that fear is running rampant. I mean, it's everywhere. I was talking. Our friend Shad, our mutual friend Shad, we were having a good discussion today about how a lot of people, and I've noticed this too, they've been complaining about being lethargic. I don't know if you know, but they just feel like there's not enough, like there's a drain on them. And I'll tell you what, I've been feeling it too. I've noticed that, like, for example, in this area, there's been like this upper respiratory thing going around up until like the last week. Everybody's kind of getting it over with now, but normally that doesn't happen this time of year. So I've just been noticing like these subtle little changes, these subtle differences. And I wonder if there's any credibility to that, that maybe there is just this negative energy out there that's starting to take effect on people. It's starting to wear people down.
It's the constant fear they push out, Joe.
Yeah.
Every day, they push out constant fear.
There's nothing to fear.
You and I know that, but they push that out. That's why I constantly tell people, dude, it's bullshit. Stop it. Stop it. It's like a slap across the face. Stop it. Stop buying into this crap. There's 2 frequencies that the universe operates on.
It's really simple.
Yeah, fear and love. And they're putting out the fear vibe so you don't tune into the love vibe. Because you tune into the love vibe,
it's game over for them.
Well, yeah, because then you're not in protection mode anymore. Your body, Bruce Lipton talks about this. Look up Dr. Bruce Lipton, ladies and gentlemen. I've played his stuff on air before.
And he makes an amazing cup of tea.
Yeah. Not that Lipton.
That was George Lipton. Pardon me.
Yes. If you look up Dr. Bruce Lipton, he talks about love versus fear, growth versus protection. When you're in the fear vibe, you're in constant protection mode. Our bodies aren't actually made to be in that mode. They're only made to be in that mode to get us the hell away from things.
Yeah, like a protection mechanism.
Bingo. And then it's supposed to switch off. But it's kept on constantly, and then we don't grow. And then if you're not growing new cells, your body constantly has cells dying. And that's how tumors and illness and disease start to form. Because you're from the inside. And it's because you're not tuned in correctly. I know this sounds new agey, but it's not.
No, it really isn't. It boils down to this. I can go even farther back. So let's take this activist that kind of came around, circa 2,000 years ago or whatever. And he basically said 2 things. He said, love your neighbor and do unto others as they would do unto you. Don't treat people the way you want to be treated. If you love your neighbor, first of all, if you love somebody, that means that you're going to respect them. You're going to respect their space, their privacy. Respect goes a long way, right? But that can't happen unless there's some love between the two parties. So if you got mutual respect, that's based on love. If you respect somebody, you're not going to go ahead and do them wrong, right? So that you're going to have personal responsibility because you wouldn't want to be a burden on anybody and nobody would want to be a burden on you. Bingo, game over. All it takes is love. All it takes is for you to not hate. All it takes is for you to see the truth in things. Like, how would you feel if you had an invading army come into your land and tell you how to live? And then all of a sudden you get approached, right? Now, this is after you've just been raped and plundered your country. It's in shambles now. And you get approached by somebody that could be a clandestine agent from some country, but you don't really care because he's toting a ton of weapons for you to get back at them that are still there, by the way.
And by the way, those soldiers too that did all the killing and stuff. Yeah, then you find out that they were sent over there for lies and for no good reason.
Exactly.
And weapons of mass destruction that aren't here. Oh, they're in Syria. Oh, but they're not in Syria. Well, where are they now? I guess ISIS has them, and they gave them to Boko Haram and Al Qaeda, and they're all hiding them in the Cobra Command base with death row.
But if we were invaded here in the United States as we invaded others, we would be pissed. The only difference is we're well armed.
But why did we invade?
Ignorance-based
fear.
Of course it is. Yeah, because we're stuck in that fear vibe all the time.
Yeah, excuse me, fear-based ignorance. See, fear is the main vibe, and then hate comes off of that. The opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is fear.
Fear.
From fear comes hate. Well, fear plus ignorance equals hate. That's where hate comes from. Like when I see people hating on each other for different colors, and oh, you're black, you're white, you're Latino, you're Asian, whatever, you're from wherever the hell you are, you're Middle Eastern, whatever, whatever the hell the case may be. It's ridiculous. We're all human.
Right.
We all operate the same way.
Exactly.
Like if you needed a heart transplant, you were going to die in the next 8 hours if you didn't have a heart transplant. The only heart available, you're some like white dude. And the only heart available is a black guy's, a heart from a guy who died, but he happened to be a black man. Are you going to be like, no, I'd rather die? I mean, if you say, well, I don't want that heart, then you know what? Maybe you don't deserve that heart.
No, yeah, exactly.
Be more deserving of it.
Don't worry, there's somebody else that will gladly take it.
Exactly. But it just makes no sense because if I'm on the operating table and they have something that's going to save me, I don't care if it came from a Latin guy, an Asian guy. Look at your body, ladies and gentlemen, like a car. It's your vessel to navigate this physical reality, this matrix that we find ourselves in.
Camp.
Okay, yeah, like our physical basic training that we're in right now, and it's our car. And like I'm covered in tattoos. I choose to give my car a unique, interesting paint job that reflects certain things in my life or certain things about me.
Yes.
And you know what? I don't care. It's my car.
But at the end of the day, my friend, flesh is flesh.
It's just skin. And you know what? When we die, you get cremated and you get turned into ashes.
And that's right. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
Trust me.
It's the way it is. That's the way it works.
Well, I mean, it's just stupid, dude. It's the idea.
Right, but again,
the idea that any one race is better than any other. Again,
there is no race. There's one race. That's it. Unless you're talking about reptilians and humans,
right? Or greys and everything.
Or greys or something like that. Okay. Now you're talking different races.
Bingo.
Yeah, but we're all human beings, and that's the way we need to see. We need to see that. I don't know what the hell the big deal is. It's so much easier. It's like I tell my kids. It's so much easier to love. It's so much easier to tell the truth. It actually doesn't take as much energy. It's easier. It's more natural.
My mother used to say, lying is a real bitch because you remember the lie, and it's hard to remember it because it was a lie, and you have to put a lot of energy and effort into remembering it. Whereas the truth is always the truth, and you're going to remember it because it was an actual experience that you had.
Yeah, because the truth leaves a very limited way. There's not much swag there. I mean, the truth is the truth.
Well, usually an experience that you had leaves a mark on you, a memory. Whereas if you make up a lie, it's just a story that you made up, and you'd have to live that lie every day over and over.
Ask Brian Williams.
Yeah, speaking of Brian Williams, can I make the point that his fellow journalists, if that's what they want to call themselves, okay, and I use that term extremely loosely, but his fellow journalists lambasted him on air. Oh my God, he lied about his experiences in Iraq. Really?
Yeah, well,
should any of you be throwing stones at somebody in a glass house?
That's a pot calling the kettle black if I've ever heard it.
Well, didn't you guys lie about the Iraq War? Weapons of mass destruction?
Nah, 9/11?
We went off that we were given Popeye. I don't care. You didn't do any research. How come? Where's real journalism? Where'd that go? Oh, there is none.
J.P. Morgan bought that back in the early 20th centuries. 20th century, you know, when he went and bought, what was it, the top 20 newspapers, hired his own managers. And, of course, the top 20 newspapers went and they farmed out. Yeah, that's where all the local newspapers got all the news, was the big boys. J.P. Morgan owned them all, so he controlled the news. And then that's where it all kind of went downhill from there. He set the precedent. So guess what? That's what you get. You don't have real news. That's why when I hear things like, well, the security firm that routinely combs the dark net for security purposes to make you safer says that these identities are being actively traded on the dark net right now. Now, is that probably the truth? Yeah, there's probably some identities being floated on the dark net. There's no doubt. It's kind of a free-for-all. But at the same time, you're telling me that to me, I have a hard time believing anything I hear from that. That's why you've always got to validate what it is you're hearing and look from multiple sources and kind of aggregate it all into one kind of loosely formed opinion sometimes.
It's fear. It's ignorance. Yeah. They know you're
There's nothing to fear.
But they know you're ignorant, so they the way they approach a story, the headlines. I mean, just ladies and gentlemen, just look at the way they sensationalize things, or they blow things out of proportion, or the way that they approach it. Again, when I woodshed like a news clip, if you notice, I don't actually pick a side. I used to sometimes pick a side, but over the years, I've decided that it's more important, and I can destroy the argument too, which I usually do. But instead of, and I shouldn't say I pick the side, I would usually just destroy the argument and then end it. But I also wanted to start to expose the game itself, the puppet show, the live action play. So over the years, I've also exposed and pointed out how, look, you see what they say, you see what they do, the lower third, the music, this and that. It's all drama. It's all a live action play. The news, some of these people actually believe what they're saying and what they do, and there is a large portion of them that knows they're just actors.
Sure.
They know this. It's just a huge live action play that they're playing in. The only way you're going to get real media and real news, and I'm not going to tell you to go to my website or go. No. You have to actually just go. You have to go to multiple.
Find it yourself.
Yeah, you got to go to multiple sites. You got to do the research yourself. You can't expect somebody. I was having a conversation with somebody. Well, it wasn't really a conversation. It was an argument with a friend of mine over milk, and he was telling me how almond milk is a scam. And I was trying to explain to him that you can make your own almond milk. So his argument that it's a scam made up by like the drink making companies is, he's like, all the information out there is wrong. They're just doing it to sell this fake crap loaded with sugar. I'm like, well, you can make your own. You don't have to put sweetener in it, and you can buy unsweetened. Anyway, by the way, that was an interesting argument. Can I just tell you, having an argument over milk, okay, and the fallback to the argument was, well, the government website said. I face desked it. It wasn't even.
I went straight from face through the palm straight to the desk.
Yes, it was
splat.
Just a face desk, almost face fisting. Okay, I was about 2 inches from a face fist through the back of my own skull.
Wow.
Yeah, and arguing over how milk is safe and there's nothing wrong with it, and I was like, but what about this? What about, and the whole point of it is it was appeal to authority and appeal to emotion, and screaming and yelling and everything else at me over whether or not real milk is good. And I was like, real milk's not really good for you. You have an inflammatory response to it. That's where the phlegm and all that stuff comes from. He didn't want to hear that.
Really?
Yeah, he's a nurse, so he knows better than me. He took a nutrition.
Oh, come on.
He took a nutrition class in in college, so he knows.
Right, and by that standard, right? And I know,
that's the appeal to authority.
History aside, right? History aside, Abe Lincoln was homeschooled, and Harry Truman was a high school dropout. History aside, just saying, they still rose to that. Does that make them qualified because they were a high school dropout? They're human beings. They are what they are. It's all of what you make of it. Knowledge is power. If you embrace that mantra and you go in a pursuit of knowledge, you'll become more powerful. It's just that simple. And you'll be able to, maintain yourself or handle yourself in an argument or a debate. And you definitely be a lot more level-headed when it comes to, when you hear, oh, God, the Bilderberg group's meeting again. Yeah, well, I know. And it's serious. Don't get me wrong, but it's nothing to fear.
Well, you can report on this stuff without freaking out. And
sure.
Then trying to sell supplements afterward. Just saying.
Who could you possibly be talking? I mean,
I think we all know who I'm talking about. Anyway.
Yeah, sorry. Didn't.
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Anyway, no, seriously, the whole, I know the whole fear and love vibe thing sounds new agey, but it's not. See, the problem is the new age movement has hijacked some real information and used it as a mind trap. And Passio and I have discussed this. Mark and I have talked about this ad nauseum, how the new age movement is just another way to trap people escaping other religious dogmas. And I'm not bashing any religion for any of you listening that, look, you can believe in whatever you want to believe, but the fact remains that all these religions do stem back the very same beliefs and like all this ancient tribes and times 6,000 years ago. Okay. And we don't really know anything beyond that.
Tower of Babel.
Right.
Tower of Babel's when the languages were confused.
Right. But
well, even if you just look at it like that,
but you don't have to believe. I don't care what your religious belief is.
Doesn't matter.
Okay. The fact remains that there are certain things that are true, whether or not you believe in them or not.
Well, truth is the truth, whether you believe in it. It doesn't change.
Well, that's why I always say you don't have to believe in gravity, but you can jump off the nearest tall object and tell me whether or not it's going to affect you if you don't believe in it or not.
And that's a trick you can only do once, by the way.
Exactly. So the things that like the frequency things, all that stuff is true. Everybody's looking into quantum physics now, and quantum physics is actually like using I think, look, science gets labeled a thing, right? And it gets this, I don't know, it almost gets created into like an entity, and it's not really an entity.
It's not.
No, it's the study of things. I think that science and spirituality can go hand in hand.
They do go hand in hand.
Well, I think so, but
no, they do. I mean, just because you say they don't doesn't mean they don't. It's interesting, I've always heard a good analogy, as far as like, say, take the jet engine. The jet engine goes and we know how it works. We can explain how it works. We can explain how it's built. And you got drawings and the calculations for it. But can you explain why the inventor built it? Can you explain what it was that inspired him to build it? No. The only person that can explain that is the inventor himself, the creator, the creative force that created the jet engine. It goes hand in hand. They don't compete with one another. They're complementary. I mean, it's really that simple.
Well, the science is just the study of things. That's what science is.
Sure.
That's why, like, when you hear them say the science is settled, I want to put my fist through people's heads.
Yeah, we know very little in the grand scheme of things.
Like, that's arrogance
all day.
Well, that's arrogance, and that's mankind. That's to a level that some people believe that they know, but more so a lot of the times that's pushed just to,
and that
agenda.
Transcends science too, because doing what we do, the more the more you research things, if you're wise, the more that you'll come to the understanding that you know very little, that the world is vast, the knowledge out there is vast, and that you're a flash in the pan. Really, that's what it's all about. Again, but you have to humble yourself to understand that.
The earth in the universe, and then the universe in the multiverse. Chew on that one for Woo Friday.
Ouch. Wait a minute. Brain poured out. Well, I'm going to have to go clean up.
You see what I'm saying? I mean, really, we know absolutely nothing, dude. And
yet we know everything.
There's well, it amazes me. There's a video out there where you can see like the size of all these different stars and the suns and all, like our sun versus all these different stars as it goes up throughout the vast universe. And you realize how tiny of a speck we are in this huge, vast universe, and how arrogant it would be for us to think that we could possibly know everything there is. And that encompasses that there's other life out there, plus even anything on our own planet. I mean, it wasn't too long ago that we didn't have electricity. It was only a couple hundred years ago. I don't know why. I mean, okay, fine. Yeah, there's like the Baghdad battery and all that. I'm talking about power lines and everything like we have today. Okay, it was only a couple hundred years ago that we didn't have that. It wasn't that long ago.
No, it really wasn't.
Why? So why are we so arrogant to think that we frigging know everything? We do not.
Yeah.
If we dropped the ego, if we dropped that arrogance, it would allow us to look at this stuff
absolutely
with a new perspective.
It surely would, dude. I mean, and again, you have to humble yourself. You really do. It has to be more along the lines of when you're going through this, it's the truth is the truth, and I'm going down that road, and wherever it takes me is where it takes me. And that's it. You have to devote yourself. You have to commit yourself to it. And if you do, you'll find it.
And don't live in fear. Look, honestly, one of the things that I see a lot of our fellow brothers and sisters in the alt media starting
get wrapped around the axle with the fear vibe, man.
Well, some of them do, but I'm starting to see a lot of them bail out of that, and they're starting to say, "I'm going to go live my life and not be afraid."
Yeah, and
I think that's awesome because that's how we win. You can stay plugged in and aware, but at the same time, not immersed in this fear vibe. Okay, look, I take time off from time to time now. Okay, because I have to get things done, and because there's massive changes. Very good ones going on in my life, okay? Which everybody will be apprised of, as new things happen and new...
What new things?
Yeah, well, you'll see. You already know. New opportunities arise for me, And,
can you be more specific?
No.
Perhaps a teaser.
I'm going to punch you. I'm going to break Joe's legs, ladies and gentlemen. The point is, I take time off, that I need. It's one of the things that I had to learn. And you get burned out doing this. And, everybody needs to do that. You need to refocus. You need to ground yourself. You need to go outside like Aaron and Melissa talk about. Take your shoes off and stand in the grass for 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah, dude. I'll take a walk in the woods.
And just
I'll come out full of ticks, but who cares, dude? It's just that piece.
You better wear a friggin' Nomex hood. Or an entire suit. That way you can just unzip the thing and throw it out and burn it.
They're actually so used to me now. They don't even bite me anymore. Like, I've been there, done that.
It's just Joe. Don't bother.
Next.
Where's that Popeye guy? He was pretty tasty.
The Bible says, "Seek and ye shall find," and that's so true. If you seek the truth, you will find it. You will find the truth. It may take you a little while to get there, but if your heart's truly seeking, it will find it. I'm telling you. But you have to seek it, and you can't be afraid of what you're going to find.
But don't live in the fear too. Don't
live in the fear.
Look, don't be plugged into this stuff 24/7 to the point where you start freaking out and you live in that, oh my God, I need to have survival seeds in every closet in the house, and you're constantly waiting for the economy to collapse, and because you're living in the fear vibe.
That's a lot of that has to do with at least in my opinion, with me, it was a lack of faith on my part. But that's just, my spiritual journey. It takes me down that road.
Well, and whatever that spiritual journey is, whether it's religious or whether it's however you're connected to the universe, the grand effect, whatever you want to call it, God, that love frequency, everybody will find their own little way to plug into that. But when you're still in that fear, which is where you were for a second, and we all were. I lived in that for a minute. We all went through that. That's why I speak from experience. But I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, you can be knowledgeable and understand this and not be afraid. Look, live in love. It's the easiest thing I could tell you to possibly do. It'll take your body out of protection mode. It'll put it back in growth. The blood will go from your hands and your feet back to your viscera, your gut, your second brain, which I've talked about with Ben Stewart. Go listen to the archives. Okay? Your brain and your stomach communicate. That's why it's called your second brain. Anyway, the blood will go to your viscera, which is where growth comes from. That's where thinking, compassion, logical thought, taking your time, not running into stuff, going, "Oh my God, I'm scared of scary Muslim terrorists that look like the Foot Clan from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles."
To manipulate you.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, we're just getting started. Shut up.
That's the fear vibe I was talking about.
The fear.
Your system into a pile of black slag.
You see, you don't want to put. Honestly, I'm not bashing, but you don't want to put that vibe.
No, that's the wrong vibe.
That's the vibe. You're on this. You're doing the same thing that mainstream media is doing. If
Exactly.
you're in the alt media, you need to use some logic, and don't be emotional like that. And don't let yourself get played. If you're really like that, that's an act.
A smile is so much more powerful.
But if you're
such more of a snub in their face, man.
If you're really like that, if you're letting the vibe get you like that, unplug for a couple weeks. I'm not kidding. You need to, because it's unhealthy for your body physically. You can't be in that vibe forever. Go look up Growth and Protection, Dr. Bruce Lipton. You'll see what I'm talking about. We're out of time, ladies and gentlemen. As I always tell you, the solutions to our problems are an inside job. Go spread some love and be the superheroes I know you all are. Joe and I love you all. We are out of here.